Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining today's session. Looks like we still have a few people join us, so we're just going to wait another minute or two before we get started. All right, we have a good amount of people on so far, so let's go ahead and get things started. Thanks again for joining today's session titled Outperform Your Competition with Customer Engagement. Today we're joined by experts from Referral and Trustpilot, who will share practical strategies for you to get started with customer engagement. These key tactics can help increase your conversions and grow revenue by leveraging and earn trust and brand reputation. Our panelists today are Joshua Ho. Referral Rock was founded by Josh in 2014 with the idea that refer a friend programs should be easy to create for any type of business. This is Josh's fourth business, where he brings an engineering mindset to running both marketing and product development. We're also joined by our very own Brian Merritt, VP of Customer Success at Trustpilot. Brian has almost 20 years in customer success and client-facing roles. From Western Union to Target to 1-800-ELK Meet, there isn't an industry or company size that he hasn't worked with. If you have any questions, you're welcome to type them in at any time on this control panel to the right of your screen, and we'll be sure to get to those at the end of the session. If we don't get to your question, don't fret. We'll be sure to follow up with you for some one-on-one time today or tomorrow. I'm going to give you a quick briefing on what Trustpilot does, and then I'll hand it over to Josh, I'm sorry. So about Trustpilot, we help people buy with confidence. We share experiences, we build trust and transparency, and of course, we help companies harness the power of reviews.
Hi, this is Josh from Referral Rock. Oops, sorry.
No worries.
This is Josh from Referral Rock, Yep, we help small and medium businesses increase their revenue, mostly through referral marketing, and you guys probably commonly know it from a consumer end as like refer a friend programs. A business can leverage their customers, partners, and even staff members to run their referral programs or be participants. And through all that, we help with our software automate the process and handle everything from blast to social media in terms and fulfilling the rewards. So obviously the reason why we're all here is to talk about customer engagement. So the first topic we're covering is, why is customer engagement so important? First, it connects you with your customers. All businesses are built on relationships, and customer engagement is an opportunity to make a strong connection between you and your customer. It also helps you understand your customer. Your engagement is, remember, it's a two-way street. If you take the time to listen to your customers, you get an opportunity to truly understand your customer and make your business better. It also improves success in future programs that leverage your customers. So in this way, we're talking about usually referral programs and loyalty programs. People come back and refer their friends based on great customer interactions and experiences. We also create, customer engagement is also important by creating a lasting impression that differentiates itself from your competitors. We feel like customer engagement plays a significant part of the overall impression your business gives. I'd argue it's just as important as your product or service you provide, because it's really your brand, your impression, and how your customer feels when they think of your business.
Great. So next, I think, thanks for that, Josh. I think next, we want to talk about, we understand why customer engagement is important, but let's talk about the different ways you can engage with your customers. in this day and age, there are 1,000 different tools, 1,000 different methodologies. There are lots and lots of different things you can do to talk to your customers, whether it be reviews or surveys or NPS or CSAT, product reviews. There are lots of different types of feedback you can collect. It's really important that you understand what your goal is for the feedback you're collecting and how you're going to collect that. So, for example, if your goal is to generate an NPS score, that's great. But keep in mind that NPS score is going to be something that's internally used. You're not going to put on your website how you have an awesome 35.7 NPS score. If you're going to ask about product feedback, that's great, but make sure that you're working with your product team around that. So it's really important that you're thinking about the different types of feedbacks and the collection methods you're using, and making sure that you're asking the right questions for the right purpose. When we think about these questions that we ask our customers, sometimes we get too much asking. We have too many cooks in the kitchen, so to speak, and we end up trying to overcomplicate the survey, overcomplicate the question, get too much out of a given interaction. When in reality, it's almost better to break them up. And if you're looking for customer reviews and customer feedback, that's one type of survey. Whereas if you're looking for product reviews, that's a different type of survey. And then the other important thing is the collection method you're going to use. In this day and age, email is no longer the sole way to contact people. Between phone calls, between text-based interviews, Facebook interviews, Twitter posts, Instagram questionnaires, a lot of the social platforms are providing their own polling tools that you can use. And so there's a real variety of ways you could do it. So you really want to test and optimize which tool you're using for who you're using it with. And then finally, reminders. People are really busy these days. They're getting lots of inboxes, and tools are getting better for segregating our inbox, right? Spam is less common. So it's really important that you remind people, because there is a lot happening in this world. And then the next part, though, is that's great. So now you've asked a bunch of questions and you've got some feedback. That's not the end game here. The end game here is actually responding to those reviews and working with customers. Obviously, it kind of goes without saying, but you should never argue with your customers. You're not sure where exactly they're coming from, and unfortunately, most feedback is going to be written form, so you miss some of the nuance of talking with someone. When you're responding to reviews, the next couple of points are really the same thing. You need to step into the footprint, the shoes of your customer, and look at it from their angle when you're responding to reviews. Oftentimes, companies we kind of get in our own heads, right? We kind of look at things from our perspective, when really we need to take that step back and out and think it from the customer's perspective, and what are they looking for. And finally, public reviews are important. It shows that you're transparent. The example we have up here actually shows how someone originally left a negative review. The customer did some work with the client, the consumer rather, and they turned that negative into a positive. So finishing on a positive note is a great thing to do. When we think about revamping and optimizing your social media channels, there's a lot of things to do here. They're all important. In my personal opinion and my professional opinion, I think the one about including a clear CTA is paramount. In this day and age, there is so much advertising, whether it's native, organic, programmatic buying, however you want to phrase it, however you want to do it. You can't go anywhere without seeing an advertisement. So having your call to action clear is probably, in my opinion, the most important thing that you're doing. And then, as you're developing that call to action, you really do need to take a lot of these other things into account. Who's your audience? What kind of platform are you sharing it on? If it's video versus text versus photos, things like that, using eye-catching images. And then, when we look at that, here's a great example of someone who's really provided a unified customer experience. The customer is everywhere now. They are on mobile, they are on tablets, they are on desktops, they are on TVs, they are on streaming services, they are everywhere. They're on different social platforms. It's really important that you keep your brand identity consistent across the platforms, so you provide a seamless experience to the customer. So that I'm going to turn it over to Josh for the next section here.
Yep. So yeah, thanks a lot, Brian. So yeah, engagement and optimizing your customer marketing. So customer marketing is all about building marketing activities that drive retention, loyalty, advocacy, growth, and community participation with your customers. Because now everything is out there in public. So anything your customers are doing to interact, whether it's through those reviews or on those social media pages that Brian was going through, all of it is marketing for you. I mean, you have to make an impression and put that out there. And that's how people do research these days. They're looking for any little bit of tidbits of information about a business before they actually even pick up the phone and call them or fill out a lead form. So that strong customer engagement pretty much primes the pump for all these different marketing initiatives. So it makes it so that all these places, wherever they may be interacting with you in any of those channels, has, you know, that there's something there, there's something positive. Almost having zero there is pretty much like, you know, as if you don't do any business at all. No one knows. You know, they don't know who's on the other end of the phone. They don't know the other end of, you know, how this business operates. It gives them experience. So another good tip is for setting those expectations and exceeding them every time. I mean, it sounds like a tried and true motto that I've always said before, but especially when I'm in my past of doing consulting, it's always great to under-promise and over-deliver. It just creating that variance between what they can expect, and you always even go in with that when you're talking with customers. You're like, yep, this is what you can expect, and this is what I like to do. But that just opens up those opportunities for you to, you know, make that lasting impression with them. It also starts, like we said, it starts with the experience, and great customer service drives loyalty. So a positive customer experience can also save you from other areas of your product and service where you might have fallen flat. So even if you didn't exceed expectations or you just did the minimum, having a great customer experience will just pretty much give you some wiggle room for mistakes you might made. You know, sometimes I had an instance where I was getting a shower installed and the glass wasn't cut right, but because the interactions with the customer service was so great, you know, they turned around even though it took an extra week. It really didn't even bother me too much. Now, if I had a poor customer experience and the glass wasn't right, you know, you could easily just mark them off and just have it just result in a much worse experience. So. It's actually pretty hard to not reaching out directly. I just feel like is really one of the most important things these days. It's something that where everyone is kind of doing all the digital and all the automation as much as possible. So this really becomes a great place for you to kind of throw a change up, where you can really make that direct connection. And we're not even talking about just phone calls and emails. I mean, there's a lot of people I've had people come back and visit after a good experience. Like I've had the salesperson come back and bring, you know, some cookies or something like that after we've had some work done to a house. So, and also whether it's pre-sales or post-sales, you can make a real impact by, you know, doing the extra dirty work that other people aren't doing. So the first way to reach out directly is you have to have a reason. So if that salesperson came up and didn't have anything and he just was like, oh yeah, hi, I'm just here by for a visit, it kind of falls flat. You know, obviously he doesn't want to go ahead and do that. So you shouldn't force it. So don't do this for the sake of doing it. You know that people are busy, so you have to really look for the right opportunities to interact. You know, whether that's a little anecdote or a little story you might have remembered that you can bring back to them. If you are delivering a message about even their invoice or receipt, you know, those are ways that you can personalize it and make it a little bit better and make them feel more special. The other thing about personalization is you have to be careful of not being too creepy. So I know Brian mentioned, I think you worked at Target. I remember there was a Target example a few years ago. Hopefully this wasn't in your area, but where I think it was the girl that they got flyers in the mail for coupons about, I think, things that were pregnancy related, and it came to her parents' house. So that's kind of a good example of the creepy thing. Not to throw Target under the bus, but
No.
you know, when it gets a little, even with outbound emails and emails coming in, when you're like, you just get that feeling of like, where are they? Do they have like malware installed on my machine or something like that? It can get, you know, a little creepy. So you've got to be careful. Personalization can make an effect, but if you kind of go too deep, it starts to kind of question your motives. So the next thing is to start with an incentive. So they always want to think about what's in it for them, whether there's an offer or a discount, previews of products, even if it's a webinar, or if it's you know, some free credits, or even a parallel offer with some other businesses you might be doing a partnership. It's great to kind of have something in hand that is of value to the customer when you are reaching out. Another great tip is to finish with an ask. So not forgetting about your call to action. A lot of people, you know, they write a great email, they write a great message, but remember that that whole customer engagement is a two-way street. You want them to reply, you want them to comment, so leave them with an ask or an action to do. You know, you can ask them with a question, or just, you know, and have it go back to a personal email. So if it's an email, it's not coming from a mass group email that they're not expecting a response. You want that interaction. That's part of this whole engagement process. And the last thing to remember is always be branding. So whether you're, you know, what you stand for your brand, for your differentiation from among your customers, you want to make sure that you are utilizing this channel to go over that. Whether it's, you know, you have a superior curation process and the best products, or like we pride ourselves on our customer service, you want to make sure that that is evident across it. You don't have to say it right out straight away, but it can be in the messaging, it can be in the imaging, it can be part of that whole brand that you're representing. So thinking outside the box, among those things that we've talked about, there are plenty of ways to think outside the box for directly reaching and engaging with your customers. So sending handwritten notes is a great one that people have been starting to do. Again, a lot of this is kind of what was old, you know, becomes new again because people circulate and go through different things. I've actually heard, not to jump all the way to the bottom about direct mail, but I know a lot of people, I've heard of a lot of people having great response with direct mail because so many people have moved on to digital. Another great one that, of course, we like is considering adopting a referral or a loyalty program, especially for small businesses. This is something that usually seems a little heavy-handed for them. But what happens is, because everyone is now digital, that enables those programs to be done so much easier. Instead of actually saying, hey, here's a card, fill this out and put your friend's name and address and information on here, which no one wants to do, you can use social media, you can use email from the platform, and you don't have to give up your friend's information when you're using a lot of these digital referral programs. Organizing competitions and giveaways, and just making sure that those competitions and giveaways, whatever you're doing, is aligning with your brand. It's really important. We've had some customers that have done some things with giveaways that just, they weren't really thinking about it, and they wanted to give away like a trip, but it really had kind of nothing to do with their messaging, and it really fell flat because it just seemed kind of odd and out of place for their brand. You can also invite customers to events. So if you do events, or you know, if you're doing special things like that, it can actually make them feel pretty special. If you're, you know, giving them, you know, if they show up, you get a T-shirt or you get an extra thing. So that's another great way to get them to come to events. Let's see, personalizing packaging. I think I've seen tissue paper that has been personalized for brands, which was pretty unique, and obviously it had an impression on me. And celebrating your brand advocates. Everyone kind of likes to see, on social media, everyone likes to kind of see their name in print. So if you did have a good customer experience or a use case that you can put out there, you know, that's something that they're going to share with their friends. Because if you portrayed them in a good light and that they're a happy customer, you know, people still like to see that type of thing.
Right. Thanks, Josh. And so, sure, you know, when we think about how customer engagement can help us, you know, when we were working through this presentation, the next two slides here, they're pretty clear and they're pretty simple for a reason. they're powerful stats. 76% of consumers view customer service as a true test of how much a company values them. That's 3 out of 4 of your customers view customer service as a true test of your company. That is a powerful stat, and if you think about that, whether it's Josh's shower situation, I had a similar situation. I volunteer for a nonprofit, manage their website. Well, we've been using the same tool for years. I called up their customer service. They were open 9 to 5. Now, that might seem okay to the company, but most developers work overnight. Like, how many of you guys have had the chance to work with engineers and developers? That they tend to be night owls. So to think that they didn't have customer support available when I was most likely to need it just showed me how little they valued them. And we ended up moving on, so they were a lost customer. We were a lost customer to them, rather. And then going on to the next one, 90% of Facebook users say that being a fan of a brand has had an impact on their recommendations to friends. And look, if we're all honest with each other, at the end of the day, we're all marketing. And while we think our message is the powerful one, step back and look in your personal life. The real powerful one is what your friends are saying. So whether it's through referral marketing or friend recommendations or reading a third-party independent reviews, however you want to do that, this customer engagement that has such a positive impact on your client base. It boosts the chances of turning doubters into buyers, buyers into believers, believers into advocates. And it can be really, really powerful if done correctly. And I think some of the things that Josh went over earlier, that I went over earlier, around reaching out and closing the loop and having that personalized message, but not being too creepy about it. Those are all real ways that you can make sure that you're following through on this. So I'll turn it back over to Josh for some ideas on how to do this.
Thanks, Brian. So I've beaten it up a little bit, but the customer engagement really helps the referral marketing program is much more successful. I probably said to most customers that we work with that the biggest secret out of it is you have to have good customer service. No one's going to recommend someone when they have a poor experience. And it really comes down to that it's a person-to-person relationship, because they're putting their I guess personal brand or their personal trust and equity in you when they're going ahead and referring you. If I'm going to refer Brian to the shower company, it's because I had a great experience, because I don't want to have it where if I had a mediocre experience and I referred him and he has a bad experience, not only does that reflect bad on the company, it reflects bad on me because I'm the one that referred him. So that experience really transcends all of those, because it goes, do I want to recommend this brand, this company to my friends? Do I want to use that trust I've built up with my friends? Because I don't want them to come back and say, hey, that was kind of pretty shoddy of you. They weren't really very nice to me, and you're going to feel immensely embarrassed. So the one that really sticks out is when word of mouth really works, is that having that memorable story really helps. So if I was to give Brian that story about the shower and said, well, they did this, they screwed up, but then they came back and then they discounted it, and then they came back again, and I had another issue, and they were there, right quick and fixed the issue. Those are the stories that I'm going to tell, when Brian's over for some beers, and when he asks about, doing some work to his bathroom. So those are the ones that are going to make a difference. It's going to be a memorable story, even if they screwed it up. It was the customer experience that stood and made me refer that business. So back to standing out. So again, you can always, everything is really competitive right now, and consumers have the much higher expectations for customer service, probably because it's so transparent out there. It's on all those websites, and everyone can see the difference. I think everyone can choose, where to spend their dollars based on their experience. So sharing those personalized and customized content with your customers makes it look like you really care. So when that's out there in social media, people see it, and people know, and people look for it. A big thing within all the competition is you can really always work harder. No matter what, if there's 2 of those companies that are doing shower doors, they can always make themselves look better by that extra little bit of hustle. I don't think anyone's ever lost business over differentiating themselves by going the extra mile for a customer. Another thing I really want to double down on is because it is how it helps your team. So this is really looking internally for how this benefits your business. When you're relating to customers, you're always you really want to get towards a better understanding of their needs. So we're really a service first business. So that means we're always putting our pride on the line with working with our customers. I actually even put all of our development staff, all of our support staff, everyone onto calls so they can even listen in, and they have to really get an understanding and the pulse of the customer. So that really helps them and your team to just better communicate with their customer, know exactly where they're coming from, and then when it comes to making improvements and engaging your team and seeing what they think and seeing how everyone wants to be a part of making the experience better. So when you ask their opinions, they know what the customers are like. They know what those profiles look like. They know how to talk to them. So it keeps everyone on point, whether it's developing websites, whether it's shower doors, whether it's whatever the item is. An innate understanding by your team really kind of pays for itself. It helps more people have that creative mind for those little nuances that can make sense and really really connect with your customers.
So cool. So just wrapping up here, just give you a quick overview of who Trustpilot is. We're big in Europe, and we're making a name for ourselves over here in America. It's founded about 10 years ago, but really hit the States about 4. But we're growing like hotcakes. So we're a global online reviews community where consumers can leave reviews about companies, and companies can receive feedback from consumers. We believe that transparency builds trust. And that openness and that sharing is caring mentality is pretty powerful. So we empower businesses to use our tools to directly solicit feedback from customers and directly respond and work with that feedback through our insights and analytics tools. These stats up here are even probably a little old. I think we might be hitting north of almost 40 million reviews on right now. But that's a little bit about over who we are. Josh?
Thanks, Brian. So yeah, at Referral Rock, we help to unlock those customer referrals. So we believe our software helps enable to unlock potential referrals. So it helps accelerate any of those ones instead of them just being at a cocktail party and talking through word of mouth. It gives them the tools. It directly contacts them. And as a business, you can build it all on our site. So we actually have customers that don't even have websites, even though in this day and age, it's probably almost, I don't know, with the easy stuff like Square and some other businesses out there, it just seems like a non-starter if you can't put up a website. But we integrate with all sorts of services, and in terms of all the rest of the stack that you're working with in marketing, whether it's email marketing, using your CRMs, things like that. And like I mentioned before, we also handle all the reward fulfillment. So it's an out-of-the-box solution that you can connect to all existing things and run referral programs. There's also all the best practices are built in that you see, like drop boxes and Airbnbs and the Ubers doing dual-sided incentives, links and codes and things like that. So yeah, that's what we provide, and one of the big drivers is that most people, that was the 83% of customers are willing to refer a friend after that positive experience, but only 29% do. So we really help put that into presence of mind so that users remember that they can also refer a friend through these techniques and help to grow your business.
Thank you, Brian and Josh. I think that covers our presentation for today. So we'll quickly move into a Q&A. And hopefully you guys have some time to leave some questions. If you haven't, please feel free to type them in, and we'll go ahead and get started. All right, first question for Josh. What are the most common reasons a referral program will fail?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I think the number one is that it's a failure to promote their programs. So a lot of people think just setting it up and putting it on a website will kind of be done. But obviously integrating into other pieces of your marketing stack, whether it's a thank you email or an invoice, and also it doesn't have to be so in your face all the time. Just having it available on the website, on the bottom links, and you can put it on the bottom of signatures, things like that. So without that promotion aspect, it's kind of like the tree falling in the woods. If no one's there, no one's going to see it or hear it. So that's probably the most important, the biggest reason most people fail. The other one would probably be about the referrer's experience. So once someone does refer a friend, they often just get dropped off on a home page or something like that. We pride ourselves on being able to have nice messaging that actually reaches out and is personalized from the person referring from one to another. So that helps that transition, and it's not like, oh, I was getting this deal and I clicked on this and now where's the deal? How does this work? I'm really confused. I'm just going to go away. So that's probably the second biggest reason that referral programs fail.
Thank you. Okay, we have another question that just came in. This one I think is for Brian. What are the best ways to ask for feedback or reviews?
Oh, I mean, you got to take a look at your customer base, but the best way to ask for reviews, feedback is probably either via email or SMS. You really want to tailor your collection method to the person. As I alluded to earlier, spam filters are getting better. Gmail is giving us more of those kind of segregating out who's important to us, what's important to us, and not putting stuff that isn't spam in a spam folder. So that's really key. And then text-based reviews, depending on your demographic, emails may not be relevant for them, for your consumers. So you really should think about text-based reviews. I'm not sure if Snapchat does reviews yet, but as soon as they do, you should definitely collect them through them.
That'd be hard to catch them. Aren't they the ones that disappear?
Yeah.
Okay, so a follow-up to that is, how can I improve my customer service if I'm only an online retailer?
Yeah, I mean, really, just because you view yourself as an online retailer, at the end of the day, you're likely giving someone that they're using in the physical world. Even Spotify, as an all-digital platform, is giving me music that I use at the gym, if I were to go to the gym, I guess. There's an opportunity for every company to take a look at how they're providing customer service and what they're doing. Again, I go back to that web hosting company that I was using. They had a great knowledge base. I hadn't needed to call their support team for 3 or 4 years that I've been doing this, but when I needed them, they weren't there. So thinking of how do you provide, the most coverage you can for your product, and really the right kind of coverage for your product. Think about ways that you can make the process easier and simpler for your consumer. One thing I noticed that Amazon started doing with refunds, and I think it's for Prime members, but when I return a product, they actually credit my credit card before they actually receive the product. If they don't receive the product, then they charge me again. But you think about how that's improved the customer service experience with them, and I appreciate they're large, massive entity with a lot more resources than most of us out there. But there are things that you can do within your organization that can really step up the game in terms of reviewing, proactively sending out product to customers who are complaining, saying, hey, I got this, it was broken. Sure, you could ask them to take a picture and for evidence and things like that. But the reality is it probably was broken. So why not just cut that middle process out and get to the resolution faster? That's what people are looking for today is a fast resolution. So really, when you think about improving your customer service, I would say being an online store is no different than being a brick and mortar. The only difference is it's a lot harder for people to walk up to you and complain to your face.
Another good one I thought of is that I've gotten before is just because you're sending with the e-commerce purchase all of these online transactions and whatnot, but taking the time to reach out to them even over email and just saying as a separate follow-up specifically about their product. Obviously some companies have tried to automate this process, but look to segment some of the ones that maybe it's a big purchase and you ask them, hey, how did it go? And it comes from a direct email. It doesn't necessarily come from the, orders at yourstore.com or whatever. But just even, breaking through some of that through that direct contact and making a connection can make a lasting impression.
Great, thank you. We have another question here. What's the difference between loyalty and referral programs? I think you can answer that, Josh.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I think we did mention loyalty and referral programs in there. So loyalty programs obviously can be a powerful driver. It's not something we cover as a business, but it's more to do with the kind of the punch card type of thing. So I don't know, even if Subway does them anymore, I used to have those all the time, as those Subway punch cards, but that's a more typical loyalty program. So it's getting a customer to come back multiple times, whether it's through an offer like the punch card types of things, or just getting them, they get extra bonuses, extra points, extra rewards for doing actions for that individual customer. So it's more about growing an individual customer's kind of footprint in your business versus the referral programs, which are geared towards expansion, where you're getting new customers. So.
Great, thank you. We have another question here. How do you measure the success of a referral program?
So measuring the success of a referral program, I mean, we can get into really granular details of like user acquisition costs and things like that. But in the end, it's actually pretty easy. When you look at how many referrals you're getting from a certain amount of customers, we usually go by a rule of 10. Which means that you're going to have a good business is going to have 10% of their customers that are going to join the referral program, and they might, on average, if they're inviting 10 friends, and then if you get at those people that are coming back into the funnel, and there's pretty much like a 10% chance that they're becoming a customer, that's a pretty sustainable rate. Obviously, you have to factor in how much you're giving away. So these are all for rewards. If you're giving away 2 rewards, you have to factor those in. And like most marketing channels, like whether you're doing SEO or PPC or whatnot, you can get it down to dollars and cents. So that's the easiest way kind of to measure that impact. But another thing you'll also get out of this is brand. So it's hard to account for those impressions. So whether that person buys that day, this is gonna get shared on social media. It's gonna reach their immediate friends and family. They may not need a shower door today. I don't think Brian is constantly renovating his bathroom. Hopefully, I don't have to ever do that one again. But it's gonna be present of mind. So it's hard to kind of account for that extra brand advertising that happens. So 6 months later, when he does decide to renovate his bathroom, or if he was sharing it and his in-laws aren't doing it for another year, they're going to remember that and go, oh wait, wasn't that something you shared? Let me go look that up. So it can have the other lasting effects rather than just the pure dollars and cents of when it happens. But with a person referring other people, obviously they're remembering that with the person and not just like an online ad they saw on the right-hand side that they're trying to ignore.
Great, thank you, Josh. Let's see, we have another question here. How would you verify that users that leave feedback reviews actually purchased or used your services that you were providing? How does Trustpilot interface to have visibility into this?
Great. Yeah, so this is a fairly specific one, so I'll try and keep it tight. When Trustpilot customers, i.e. businesses, solicit their consumers for reviews, we have a number of different integrations to a number of different e-commerce platforms. Like 17 different ways you can collect a review, but they all go back to actually tying the review invitation back to a specific order ID from your e-commerce system or your POS system. So therefore, we can actually state that they're verified. If you go look on like some of our, if you go to Trustpilot.com and look at JustFab or Jet.com or something like that, you can actually see that there are reviews that are stated as verified. Those are consumers who the customer is invited, and the customer can actually tie back that order number back to that review, so they can look at what they bought, so they can then try and help resolve the issue or thank them for feedback appropriate to what they ordered. And there are some that don't have verified review. Those are customers who are leaving a review, what we call organically. They found our web page and they left that. So we do have tools in place, and that's all within our interface.
Great. So we're just going to take one more question. If you guys have any additional questions, please email them to events@trustpilot.com, which you can find at the bottom of the screen here. So our last question today is, Are there any tips for reaching out to customers via phone to check in on how their product is going?
Yeah, so I'll just give my 2 cents here. What we do is similar to this. We do something called customer education hours, and what you need to do is it needs to be an effort that gets ingrained within your team's DNA. So whether it's an hour that your customer support team is not taking inbound calls but placing outbound calls, might be one way of thinking about that, is reversing the workflow for a little bit. Another way to do is to actually have people from your product team actually doing the calls. But the gist of it is, I think the best advice I could give someone is focus it and make it a concerted effort, a dedicated time each week that you reach out to customers. It's Tuesday afternoons from 3 to 5. We are calling all of our customers and asking them about their product reviews. And again, you'll want to take that into consideration as to what the product you're selling. If you're selling a personal consumable good, you may need to buy your team pizza and have them stay late one night to call people at home from 5 to 7. If you're working with businesses, obviously you can get away with calling 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. So think about who your customers are. But I think it's really about making that concerted effort, and just doing it, and accepting the fact that you're going to only get a 10% answer rate. But if you're calling 1,000 customers during that focused hour, you're going to get through to 100 people. So it's about sort of making sure you're doing it at volume and focus.
Yeah, I'd also add that we've had a good effectiveness of also using email in kind of tandem with it. So whether it's we've experimented in both, and they've also had reasonable success in sending an email and say, hey, I'm going to give you a call, this week or something like that. So it's something they know is coming, and it's not just necessarily like they think it's a cold call type of thing. Or another one is also, after a call, if there's no pickup or you're leaving a message, is also following it up with an email and just say, hey, by the way, I called you, blah, blah, blah. And, if you'd like to reach back to me, if you want to just reply over email, it helps to give people multiple channels to interact back with you. Some people may not be comfortable on the phone, or they might be, too busy to be able to get on the phone, time zones, different things like that. So opening up and leaving that channel open in other mediums, I think, also aids.
Well, thank you, Brian and Josh. I think that wraps it up for today. Once you all exit out of today's session, you'll receive a quick survey. Please provide your feedback, as it always helps us improve our sessions and get better for next time. We're going to be sending you a thank you that includes the recording and the slide share, in case you want to share it with your friends or review it at a later time. Otherwise, thank you all for joining.